Welcome to Yoga How To. We're here today at the end of the year. We were thinking about just kind of like intentions and resolutions and why we do the things that we do. So we thought it'd be a great opportunity to do a short Q&A on donation yoga. Maybe you've heard of it. We do donation yoga at Cambio.
And we've been doing it for 16 and a half years now.
Yeah.
So
we know a thing or two, but also it's specific to how we do it. And so we decided to just kind of throw some questions out into the world, and we're going to ask each other questions and just randomly answer them and see if this creates a little bit more clarity on something that is still 16 years later. I remember when we first started, people were like, what in the world? And 16 years later, people are still like, what in the world? So
pretty much, yeah.
So you might hear the dogs screaming in the background. They're just wrestling. They're having a great time.
When we get together, the dogs get together. And by the way, his dog is my dog's brother. So we have sibling dogs, and we are siblings.
Okay, so question number one, I'm going to hand you the mic here. Why donation-based yoga?
Okay, so, well, as you know, finances can be a barrier to yoga, and that was something you and I were living. Austin had all kinds of jobs and was a yoga teacher, and I was an elementary school teacher and a yoga teacher, and neither of us could afford to regularly do yoga at a studio. It was just inaccessible to us.
And this was 2006, 2007.
Yeah. And so I had taken donation yoga when I lived in Seattle, and I knew about a studio in New York City that was donation based, and it had just always been this thought in my mind, like this would be amazing. And I think the roots of it actually go back to our mom, because we were raised by a single mom, and she did yoga when we were young. I don't know if you remember any of that, but she would go to the YMCA and do yoga, but it just really wasn't an accessible option for a single mother to have memberships, to get to and from studios, to do all of this stuff. And so I think it's just really a way to put an offering out there that's really from the heart, and that I think you and I just really believe the community needs this, that there's a place for it, and that it's just something that I don't know. I never questioned it, and it just to me was just like this is the thing. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, actually, I thought of a story because I remember when we were starting it. I was in college for like the second time, and I was taking a summer class, and it was a philosophy class. And these dogs are hilarious. And I had written my kind of final paper, and you had to read them. And so I went up and read, and this was right when we had opened Cambio like less than a month before this. And when we started, I was terrified. I was like, I've never seen anything donation based. How is this going to work? We live a capitalistic country. What's going on? What are we up for? But of course, Amber was like, let's go. And I was like, I'm your co-pilot. Let's rock. And I remember reading this paper, feeling so proud of the writing. And then she goes, oh, and tell us about your yoga studio. And I was just like, oh, we have a donation-based yoga studio. So even early days, I was still very, like, the idea was abstract and so novel to me that I was still very much just like, felt like I was just being strapped to this rocket of exploration into space, where I was like, I don't know what we're going to find out here. And as you were talking, what it reminded me of is over the years, the donation model has become kind of a subset of something much more intrinsic to our true guiding principles around what we do at Cambio, which is accessibility. And so it's one facet, one aspect of what accessibility means for us and why that is so important in the community.
Yeah. Well, and that was just to mention too, our mission, which has been our mission since before we opened, was to make yoga accessible to all. And
Yeah.
that's part of what we're doing here too with the yoga how-to stuff, because I think there's just so many concepts and things that unless you do a teacher training or go study in India at an ashram or do these things, it can be hard to piece together how to apply these concepts in your life or how to go deeper with them. And so I very much see yoga how-to as it has the same heartbeat. It has the same, it's just a branch of still trying to get yoga education out there so that people can really, I mean, we wouldn't do it if we didn't believe in yoga, right?
Yeah.
And like that it's going to benefit people, it's going to make their lives better. And that's really the heart of the whole mission.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't know anything about what it meant, the implications. I was completely ignorant to the idea of how a donation model could subvert the kind of modern transactional capitalistic world in a way to create more accessibility. And that's been kind of one of the greatest gifts of all of it, is learning over the years what that exactly means and how we've been able to expand upon that principle from the beginning to create more and more accessibility through the way that all these different concepts and ideologies are interconnected through yoga philosophy, from the way that we run our business to how we use yoga philosophy to run the business, how we then turn that around and use it to run the business. I guess I just said the same thing twice, but
Some things bear repeating.
yeah, and that's why we're doing this video.
That was a good dive.
You guys got some. All right, so Austin, what is donation yoga?
Okay, yes, people do ask this all the time, and it's funny because being put on the spot, I do kind of feel like I don't know, but I do know because we've been doing it for 16 years. But I guess I want like the answer to be some big answer, because it seems like it's self-explanatory, but obviously because it's so rare and unique in our society, people don't understand that it's, the main question that goes along with that is like, well, how much can I really pay, or what is a donation, and is it mean it's free? The way that we operate it, and I've seen it many different styles, we do a sliding scale, and there are different approaches to memberships and things like that. There's a lot of kind of literature on our website that explain the details of what that is. But I guess what I want to say is, at the heart of it, what the donation model is a way for people to stay in their practice, to stay connected to it, to stay committed to it, where the financial burden of that can modulate as their life changes. So that's really, when I think of like what is donation based, it's a way for people to be able to say, well, this is what I can give now and this is what I can give then. And they don't always have to be the same thing. We've had times people come in with this like sheepish look because the donation isn't enough in their mind. And we've spent a lot of time training employees, and it's a big part of the conversation that we have with our teachers, that there's no like need to shame anybody or like speak between the lines around like, well, this donation really should be more. We do try to create the conversation so that people can donate exactly what they can, so that they keep coming back.
Yeah. Well, and if I can add, I think that just really creates a lovely foundation of trust, that creates just a different kind of experience too, because I really do trust people to do what they find appropriate with their budget. And it's always worked out. Our first month open, I remember, and I can't even imagine only needing to make this much, but I think we needed to make $1,800 and some odd dollars to break even, which is like,
Oh, those days.
oh my gosh, I can't even imagine now. But we broke even almost to the dollar. And it was just such a, like, for me, like, affirmation or confirmation, like, okay, this is gonna, this can work, and people will step up, and because they care about it, they value it.
Yeah.
And that's where the value really comes in too, I think. And can I hop into another question I have for you?
Almost. Well, hang on.
All right.
Because I like what you just said, because I think that also too, sometimes people are suspicious. Like there's some type of like gotcha with things, because there are so many bait and switches out there in the world, and it's like, no, it's literally just like, pay what you can. And you're right, it does create this, more than trust, it creates a spirit that is almost kind of intrinsically creating a bond where we're all in this together, because it's speaking to the conversation that, like, we get life is hard and it's hard out there, so can we make it easier for you, and so that you can get your yoga. And you know, we've always put the favor of the fortune to the universe to say, like, hopefully it'll be enough for us to be able to keep doing this, and here we are 16 and a half years later.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your question?
Well, I think it led to something else you and I talked about earlier, is this idea of value. Sometimes people think, you know, you pay for what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there's this, well, is it not going to be quality yoga, or is it? And actually, I think in this sense, you're getting more than what you think you're going to get. But what do you want to say about that? Because I know that's a big thing for you.
Yes. So yeah, I remember early days of teaching yoga, and I would like teach at this real fancy corporate expensive studio and pull my like 1991 350,000 mile Subaru in between like a BMW and an Audi, and think how cool I am because I get to teach these doctors and lawyers and things like that. And then we built this new studio, and I remember that we had to build from the ground up. A lot of my students didn't follow me, and I kind of took it personal until I remembered something I learned in a sociology class in college, which was the study that they had done around perceived value, exactly what you were talking about. And they had given people 2 cars. One person had paid several $1,000s more for the same exact car. And over time, they would do these periodic interviews with the people, and they found out that the person who paid more, but they also knew that they paid more, they would actively look for reasons why their car was actually worth more, even though every single reason was just simply a reason that they made up in their head that wasn't real. So all that to say is, for several years in the beginning, I had a chip on my shoulder about proving something around how the quality of yoga at a donation-based yoga studio could be every bit as good. These dogs are hilarious.
They are running wild right now.
Which, at a certain point, I just kind of let go of, because I was like, there's no sense in proving it because it's proven. And I think that the proof is in the pudding. Obviously, in a yoga studio, you look for, does the vibe match? Does the teaching match? Do they have an accommodating schedule? You know, all these kinds of things do matter too. But in terms of our studio, we have worked really hard in terms of cultivating a teacher studio where the teachers that work there care about yoga in a way that they just simply go above and beyond. There is a service to the teaching, to the practice, and to the students that is just par excellence and bar none. I mean, there just nobody else. I don't see that happening. And we hear all the time people who, when Cambio is their vibe and that's their studio, and then they go anywhere else in the world, the one refrain they always come back to is, you know, oh, I love this city way more than Colorado Springs, but there's no Cambio there. So I think simple answer of the question is, like, can donation yoga still provide the same quality of instruction? I think yes, and more.
Yeah, and can I add to that? Because I think what you're getting at here is something we hit on earlier. There's 2 things really. Is first, the teachers who are drawn to, often they start as students at the studio. Yeah. So they have a feeling of commitment to the mission of making yoga accessible. So they know part of that is also just being a kind and welcoming person. And that is one of those intangibles. Like when you come into a studio and you feel like you're welcome and like the instructor is happy to see you and is like, their day is made because you're there. We tend to draw people like that to our studio because, again, back that donation model. And then I think the other thing you get that's an intangible, but we hit on this earlier, is community. And it really is, there is a sense of community because of this.
So let me ask you a question.
Reciprocal thing where we're all in it together.
So that's the question. How has donation, the model, affected the community at the yoga studio?
Well, I mean, I think for one, it's what you were talking about earlier, is that when people, they're, it, the donation model meets people at wherever they're at in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so do other aspects of it that we have put into accessibility. But we're just talking about donation right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, people want it to keep going. So they donate what they can, but there is this, it becomes very reciprocal and very much like a relationship rather than just a business exchange. I go here, I pay you money, you give me this. Instead, it's like people care about this studio in a way that it just naturally becomes community. And that is one of our focuses, is community. But so much of it just naturally comes out of the donation model because people are invested in it. They care about it. They want to keep it going because of what they've gotten out of it and because they want others to benefit from it too.
Yes.
So there is just this, and because of that too, they understand it needs to be a welcoming, friendly place. You go in and you say hi, or at least smile, or at least move your mat if someone needs a spot. You don't, it's just got a whole different vibe than some places do. And I think the heart of that comes back to donation.
Yes. I got to add on to this. Good.
Yeah,
well
we
answered.
always do.
I think that there are not a lot of third spaces in the world that there isn't a sense of pressure around status. And when you move the needle on the spectrum of social interaction from status, and it actually slides towards not just benefit of the doubt, but actually like a feeling of doing good in the world, it unconsciously sometimes arises this social interaction of seeing the best in others, even when they're complete strangers. And when you start to put that filter on of seeing the best in others, you want the best in you to be seen, and you lead with the best in yourself as well. So there is a homegrown kind of experience to the community where people can walk into this third space and, in essence, drop some of the social armor that we wear to kind of prop up our status in ways of either offense or defense out in the rest of kind of the world that tends to be so transactional. Whereas you walk into Cambio, you just never know what you're going to find. There's a sense of curiosity and spontaneity, exploration and discovery to it that is in a way freeing, but also speaks to the inner child of how adults don't get that type of realization or relation in life.
Yeah, I mean, God, that's so good what you're saying. I just have to say, I'm glad you grabbed the mic and added on because that was so good. And also it just makes me think of, like, we have had these beautiful friendships emerge over the years, like between people who anywhere else, because of that social armor, whether it's age, whether it's, I mean, we have people who are friends with decades between them in age. And it's because they can come in and just be their best selves and see other people, but also be vulnerable and kind and not just be seen as the certain kind of person that they are seen as in the rest of society, perhaps. And yeah, that's all I got on that one. Who farted?
Somebody farted. It wasn't not a human fart.
It was not me.
It wasn't a human fart.
Was it Violet? Do you have to go poop? Is that why she looks concerned?
She's maybe. Well, before we take a poop break, I do want to. I love that you pointed that out because time and time again, and I have found in my life, like making friends as an adult is harder because we are less focused on the simple pleasures of enjoying things together and more concerned with creating deep, meaningful connections. And so the kind of the standard gets higher. So the quotient gets higher. And so there is a set, kind of a natural occurring kind of pre-qualification that happens when people show up at a yoga studio. There is an assumption like, people are here to like kind of like work on themselves, to kind of like take a look at themselves. So it's very different than just throwing yourself out into like a dating app or something where like this person be like, I'm looking for a girlfriend because I like to fish and I don't want to fish alone. Whereas like this girl's like, I want a guy to just like rub my feet while I watch my favorite show. You know, and neither of those are bad things, but it's just so randomly distant sometimes in terms of being like-minded or interested in the same things that sometimes that's why the spark of these relationships tend to turn into like groups of people and multi-year things, because they're learning about themselves and they're learning about the practice and they're learning about the philosophy in ways that they go through a thing together that kind of bonds them in a meaningful way. So
yeah, well, and I'll say as the introvert in the room here, I tend to be more behind the scenes. Austin's more out front and
kissing babies.
Kissing
Shaking
babies.
hands.
He's kissing babies and shaking hands. But, you know, even when you're a more introverted type, you can go in and just, you know, just the warmth and the kindness is just something that, even if you're not someone who is going into those really deep, like, I'm going to hang out with this group of people all the time levels, there's just still a richness to it that you don't find anywhere else. Well, and just the way you're greeted and just the way you, I don't know, it's something I can't quite explain. Yeah.
No pressure to be anything other than who you are and what you.
Well, and that used to be one of our logo things, was come as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think that's still true to this day. Oh gosh, imagine if we went through our old marketing stuff.
Final question.
Okay, the final question. What do you hope by going to a donation studio, ours in particular, that people walk away with?
Well, I think that I hope they walk away with everything we've talked about, like a sense of being witnessed, a sense of being acknowledged, a sense of being seen for who they are, kind of beneath the facade and the social status. I hope that they allow kind of the freedom of that space to invite them and encourage them to get curious about the deeper aspects of the philosophy and the practice, to find a third space in their life where a community can feel like a home away from home, an aspect of like also being open to find what you may not even know you need in a communal space. I think that is such a huge part of yoga nowadays, is that people start practicing for one reason and then they continue practicing it for another reason. So ultimately, I hope that all people from all walks of life can find some sense of healing and relief from the suffering in their life in our space, and without it having to feel transactional.
Okay, everyone, thank you for being here. We are hoping that we cleared up any questions you have about donation yoga, any curiosities you have about how our studio, Cambio, wound up being a donation studio, and why it's really, honestly, the heartbeat behind everything we're doing.
We'll see you around at the studio. Hopefully, those of you who've been there, come back. Those of you who are there, stay practicing, and those of you who haven't met yet, we'll see you in the new year.
Ooh, and I just want to say, those of you who aren't in Colorado Springs, we have live stream classes, and one of our most amazing teachers just walked in the door, and the online classes are phenomenal also, so you could check us out there too.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year.